All right, I want to give a quick tip and just kind of a quick breakdown of how to pick the right hook for your soft plastic baits. First one we're going to go with is, the more slender, just straight worm style stuff. So whether that's a stick worm, just a larger, just a straight tail worm, more of a trick worm style worm, any of that kind of stuff, even a ribbon tail, all those type of baits. You've got just a solid, fairly slender body. It's not as big around as your pinky or anything, but just a solid slender body worm. For all of those bait styles, and that's where if I'm going with a 6-inch stick worm, 4-inch stick worm, anything in that range, personally, I always use a round bend worm hook. I do not use a wide gap hook in those situations. I use just a round bend worm hook. Now, which hook I'm actually going to use will depend a little bit on the way that I'm fishing it. If I want a hook that's a little bit heavier weight for any particular reason, and then the type of cover and the setup that I've got it on. If I've got it on really heavy line, braided line, something like that, obviously I'm going to want to go with a heavier wire hook. If I'm fishing more open water, lighter line, that kind of stuff, and or even just more finesse applications, then I'm going to want to go with a little bit thinner wire, but still really, really strong hook. These two hooks, both these are VMC. This is a heavy duty worm hook, and this is the Redline hybrid worm hook. Both of these hooks are very strong, even as much thinner as what that Redline is. Man, it is a super, super strong hook. But both of those two super sharp, and they do a great job for those just regular round bodied, type of baits. And that, it doesn't matter if I'm pitching that in heavy cover, if I'm casting out in open water, I always fish those type of baits on a round bend worm hook again. Now, next up would be a crawl style bait, creature style bait, those type of things. These are actually the ones where, in my opinion, it gets, I don't want to say more confusing, but different applications for how you're actually fishing the bait is then going to determine which style hook that I'm going to be using in that thing. So I've really got 3 different styles. I've got a straight shank, I've got a heavy duty wide gap. This one happens to be a ringed one. It's typically not what I'm fishing on it. That was just what I had handy. But I've got a heavy duty wide gap, and then I've got the Redline wide gap. So I've really got 3 different hooks that I will use on crawl style baits. Why 3 different hooks for the same exact bait? Here's the main application differences for me. For a crawl style, creature style bait, I'm going to use that on a straight shank hook when I'm punching. If I'm punching down in heavy cover and my presentation is vertical, I'm dropping it down through stuff, typically grass. It could be, could be a log jam or something like that. But if it's a vertical presentation, I'm going to go with a straight shank hook, and I'm going to snell knot it. And typically always on braid, just straight braided line with a straight shank hook for me and a crawl style bait. Next would be just kind of your traditional, pitching in and around cover. Maybe you're pitching it in a tree or something every now and again, but not super heavy. It's not the punching kind of deal, but just your traditional flipping is what I would call it. That is where I'm going to go with a heavy duty wide gap. That heavy duty wide gap does that really well for me. But if I'm out, say I'm throwing this thing on a Carolina rig, or I'm throwing it out in more open water, that type of stuff, absolutely going to go with that Redline. That little bit thinner wire, but yet still super strong, very sharp hook is what I'm going to reach for in that particular situation. As well as, again, if I'm wanting to fish this on a little bit more finessey and go down to 12 or 14 pound line, I want that thinner wire hook in that situation. So that's why I do have 3 different hook styles for the same bait when it comes to creature baits. So don't try to make it too complicated. If you've got a few different style hooks, straight shank for punching, wide gap for fat bodied creature style baits, and then round bend on your straight, your straight worms, that kind of stuff. Keep it simple like that, works for me.